In this video, I tell the story of 7-year-old Alexis Patterson, who disappeared on May 3, 2002. Welcome to Black Kids Haven. Subscribe and hit the like button for more stories. When a child goes missing or is found dead, investigators focus on their family. Research shows the youngest homicide victims often are killed by their parents. This is the story of 7-year-old Alexis Patterson from Milwaukee. Alexis's mother and stepfather have been considered suspects since her disappearance in 2002. Every tip led back to her home, and it became apparent that something tragically went wrong in that house. The child's mother disputes this. In a recent interview, she said police didn't seem to care about what happened to her daughter. Instead, she believes they were fixated on trying to pin Alexis's disappearance on her husband because of his criminal history. He was well known to police long before Alexis vanished. In 1994, a gunman robbed a Milwaukee bank, fatally shooting a police officer. The case remained unsolved for 4 months until a woman called in a tip. The woman proved her credibility with a detail never released to the public. She identified the gunman as a man named Booker Ship and said Laurent Bourgeois had served as his getaway driver. Even with a woman's statement, investigators didn't have enough evidence to charge anyone. That is when Laurent Bourgeois became the key. The prosecutor offered him immunity if he confessed and testified against Ship. Bourgeois took the deal. Ship went to prison for life, while Bourgeois went free. Fast forward a decade, Bourgeois met Ayanna Patterson and became a stepfather to Alexis. His son from a previous relationship moved in with them. About 6 months before Alexis disappeared, Bourgeois and Patterson had a baby together. Multiple people told police Bourgeois sold drugs from the family's home. Many people also said the parents used drugs. In recent conversations with a reporter, Patterson denied having a drug problem, but admitted using marijuana. She also said numerous other incidents depicted in the police reports had been exaggerated or had not occurred at all. Several people talked about Patterson's violent outbursts with children, including her daughter, according to newly released police records. One relative told police that a year earlier, Patterson hit a young girl named Sheree and knocked out her tooth. After someone called police, Patterson and others hid the child under a pile of clothing, the relative said. A family friend said he had seen Patterson hit Alexis violently numerous times, usually across the face and about the body with her hand, and call her a little bitch, according to the police report. Alexis' stepbrother said Patterson had previously hit Alexis with a black belt. A cousin told police the same thing. So, to explore more of what happened at the time of Alexis's disappearance. The story goes that the morning Alexis disappeared, she and her mother argued over cupcakes. Alexis had planned to bring the treats to school, but she hadn't done her homework, so her mother didn't let her. Patterson said Alexis was upset and had fire in her eyes. Bourgeois told police he and his son walked Alexis to the corner between their home and the school. The reports include differing witness accounts. Some said they saw Alexis on the school grounds that morning. Others said she had never arrived. One 6th-grade student told police she saw Alexis on the school steps with her head down. Alexis mentioned the cupcakes, and the older girl offered to buy her one from a store. This girl said Alexis replied saying she wants her own cupcakes. Alexis stood up and walked out of the schoolyard, she said. Phone records show a brief call from Patterson's cell phone to a hospital at 9:37 a.m., about an hour after Bourgeois said he left Alexis near the school. The hospital had no record of anyone talking to her, according to the police reports, which don't indicate whether police asked Patterson about the call. In a conversation with a reporter, Patterson said her new baby's pediatrician practiced out of that department. She called for advice because the baby was coughing, she said, but hung up after being placed on a long hold. That afternoon, a neighbor stopped by to see Patterson and the baby. The neighbor told police Patterson barely let them into the house and rushed them out to the porch to smoke. She said Patterson admitted to giving Alexis a real bad beating the night before. 2 weeks after Alexis went missing, authorities concluded she was most likely the victim of an emotion-based homicide at the hands of her mother. They brought in a cadaver dog. These kinds of dogs are trained to give a signal, often sitting or sometimes barking, when they detect the odor of human remains. In this case, the dog alerted on the trunk of Bourgeois' car and the family's basement. Investigators then sprayed those areas with a chemical that can reveal traces of blood and other substances, including bleach. It lit up everywhere the dog had hit. Police swabbed the illuminated spots, but lab testing did not find blood. About a month after Alexis went missing, one of Patterson's friends said she overheard a phone call between Patterson and her mother. The friend, who was at the mother's house, picked up the extension and listened in on the conversation. At one point, the mother told Patterson, "You should not have beat Alexis." Patterson allegedly replied, "I beat her, and she didn't get back up." The friend said Patterson became angry and threw the phone. Later that year, a detective witnessed Patterson losing her temper after he stopped by a store she had opened with Bourgeois. Patterson believed police were not trying to find her daughter and became enraged, the detective's report says, clenching her fists, knocking over candy, throwing a fan at the wall, and saying she would put a knife in someone's throat. Patterson allegedly stated that people should understand not to upset her and that when they do, someone will get hurt. Investigators also were told that Patterson had failed to return a large duffel bag she had borrowed from a friend. The woman told them the bag was large enough to hold a body. Patterson also has recently told police and reporters that she spanked Alexis a couple of days before her disappearance, but not the day she was last seen. She said she had a good reason to discipline Alexis days prior to her disappearance. Alexis had been caught by her teacher talking to an unknown woman behind the school, not just once, but twice. No one had ever mentioned the mysterious woman to police before. Not Patterson and not the teacher, both of whom had been interviewed extensively in 2002. When the detective asked the teacher about this new clue, the teacher did not remember Alexis talking to an unknown woman. She said if such a situation had occurred, she would have told police at the time. So, in putting the pieces together, here's what police believe might have happened. The morning Alexis disappeared, she and her parents argued about whether she could bring cupcakes to school. Her mother didn't allow it, and Alexis became upset. Bourgeois handed Alexis off to the crossing guard, but the 7-year-old did not go inside the school. Instead, she headed back home to get her cupcakes. In this theory, either Bourgeois or Patterson physically disciplined Alexis for returning. The beating went too far, and the girl was fatally injured. As Alexis lay bleeding in the basement, someone called the hospital, but hung up when they realized she was dead. Then, someone put Alexis's body into the duffel bag, moved it to the trunk of Bourgeois' car, and drove away to dump her body. Later that morning, her stepfather and mother doused the car and basement with bleach to remove the blood. Now, put yourself in the position of a detective or a prosecutor. You need to rule out all other possibilities before charging someone. That would be extremely difficult in this case. The police reports are full of interviews with witnesses who contradict one another. Questions still remain, 20 years later. Did Alexis make it across the street on the morning she went missing? Did she ever get to the playground? Was she really sitting on the steps of the school crying about the cupcakes? There's no clear answer to any of those questions. The two leading theories both conclude that Alexis is likely dead, but her remains have never been found. No one has ever confessed to taking her, let alone killing her. And there is little physical evidence to support either theory. If you believe Alexis's parents were involved, you would have to ignore the dozens of witnesses who came forward about the drug ripoff and kidnapping theory. You would also have to explain why would her mother continue to raise awareness about the case? Why would she continue to insist a woman in Ohio is her daughter, despite DNA testing that proves she's not?
She knows that's her child. Like, she is 110% sure that that's her child.
Josh is the man who led police to Ohio. He was once married to the woman and is now in a custody battle over their son. As he dug into her past, he says he came upon Alexis Patterson's missing flyer. It notes Alexis has a scar under one eye and a bump on her pinky. So, he says, does his ex-wife. He had another question for Alexis's mom.
You need to ask Ayanna if her daughter had a birthmark and where it was at. She said she had a birthmark in the exact same spot. Made me puke.
Last weekend, Josh traveled to Milwaukee with his son, where he gave Alexis's mom a sample of his son's DNA to compare with Alexis. He didn't know the Bryan Police Department had already gotten a sample from the woman last Thursday.
Milwaukee was supposed to have gotten it Friday.
Chief Michael Willis says the woman denies she's Alexis and provided some identity papers, which say she's 28. Alexis would be 21. But Josh still believes she's that missing Milwaukee girl.
Today, I got the results on the media. I didn't get a call till after they released it on the media, stating that Lisa is not Alexis. I don't believe that. Absolutely not. And the reason why is because I just gave the MPD my DNA yesterday, okay? And they told me, the lieutenant, I talked to the lieutenant today, he told me that they matched Lisa's DNA with the DNA that they got 14 years ago of Alexis's. Well, first of all, who gave you the DNA 14 years ago? You never received the DNA from me. What DNA did you use? From a toothbrush? Nah. Give me the real DNA. Use my DNA. Put my DNA to Lisa's DNA and take it from there. And if the test come back stating that she's not mine, then that's when I will accept it. But right now, I'm not accepting it because she's too much like me. How does she have the same mole right here that I have, that my daughters have, and her granddaughter, and her daughter have? She has the same birthmark as Alexis had when Alexis was first born. She has the same mark on her eye, the right eye, what my daughter had, okay? She has the same bump, and she has the same mole on her nose right here too. We're too much alike for this not to be my child. I worry about my daughter every day. I've been worried about my baby for 14 years. You understand? And then now that I finally got a nice, I feel like a solid clue, you know what I'm saying, a solid lead, y'all gonna tell me that it's not her? It hurts. It really hurts. I will continue to search. I will continue to search for her. I would never stop until she come home. I will say to Alexis, I'm sorry for the things that you've gone through. And I've never meant to cause you any pain. I'm just a hurting mother that wants her child. And I believe that you are my daughter. And no matter what the test says, I still believe 1,000,000% that you are my child. And I want you to continue to go on with your life and try to be as happy as you can and be the best mother that you can possibly be. And raise your children and don't let no one hurt your kids. Don't let your children out your sight.
This is an awakening. This is an awakening for the 20 years that Alexis has been gone. Yeah. So we waking the community up. We waking the world up. We letting you guys know that we waiting for Alexis, that we know she coming home. When I had Lele, I was a little girl. I was 16. I had her 2 weeks after my 16th birthday. She was so smart. She was so smart. I wanted her to go to school so bad because she was so smart. When I tell y'all, my baby loved school on every level. At 4 years old, Alexis was reading and writing. She was so smart. She knew her letters, everything. Alexis had never missed one day of school. So when my daughter never made it home, I ran into class. Miss Rulin was still in there. And I asked Miss Rulin, I looked at Miss Rulin. I said, Miss Rulin, where Alexis at? And I still remember her face. She turned around. She turned around. She said, Alexis didn't come to school. I ain't seen the And I said, oh my God, like I never knew that my baby hadn't made it to school that day. That's like a real problem for me. That was never like my daughter not to miss school. I can't even explain how I feel. Okay? But I can tell you that I'm not giving up. You know? Yeah, I don't even know how to say how I feel. I don't even know how to express how I feel. So much has kept me going. You know? The not knowing really has kept me going because it gives me the ability to keep fighting. You know, and really fighting that's what I do. It's been 20 years, okay? And this is a hard fight. This is a hard battle. You understand? So I'm not giving up, ever. I'm not giving up. Believe what I say when I say my baby alive. That's what I want the community to do. Believe me when I say my daughter is alive. Believe me if I say that's my daughter, believe me, because I know mine. I'm not just saying it just to say I know my child. I want to keep the vibration frequency raised when it comes to Alexis, you know. I want everybody to know that, even though we all know that she's alive, we all know that clearly. I want the world to be awakened and know that I found my daughter. That's what I want. Alexis, mama coming for you, and you know it. Yeah, she know. Ain't no giving up. We don't give up.
Alexis's stepfather died of a drug overdose in 2021. Before that, he had been offered immunity to tell police and prosecutors what happened to her. He had made a deal with prosecutors in the bank robbery case years earlier. If he knew who took Alexis, why wouldn't he do it again? If you believe Alexis was abducted by a drug supplier, you would have a problem with witness credibility. Most of the people who provided information about a revenge kidnapping were inmates who were trying to get out of their own legal trouble in exchange. That's a solid motive to lie. Although the men implicated in the alleged plot were seasoned criminals, they sold drugs and committed armed robberies. That's a world away from kidnapping and killing a child. If Bourgeois' drug supplier were to be charged, his defense attorney would have more than enough reasonable doubt to win an acquittal. A lawyer could cast suspicion on Alexis's parents with the call to the hospital, their inconsistent stories and the luminol testing that indicated possible blood or bleach in the basement. What's more, a defense attorney could cite dozens of tips from people who said they saw Alexis alive in the weeks, months, and even years after she went missing. No case is truly unsolvable, not even this one. Someone knows what happened to Alexis. This little girl had the world ahead of her, and it was all snatched away. At this time, only very few people truly know what happened. If her stepfather held a secret, he took it to his grave. If you know what happened to Alexis Patterson, please speak up. A curious nation is waiting for your information. Thanks for listening. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel.